Hey everybody, Enoch Sayers here, founder and publisher of Business of Architecture. And joining me today is landscape architect Julie Canter. Now, Julie joined the architecture firm Freedom Formula program back in July of this year, 2018. And Julie has a new firm out of New York, but she's been in the industry for quite a while. She's an award-winning landscape architect. She went to my alma mater. We discovered that we both were at Cornell University at the same time, so we probably even crossed paths, right, Julie?
Definitely.
In the dining halls.
Definitely.
Julie is a former partner of PWP Landscape Architecture, and she has personally led many large-scale, complex, integrated projects in the United States and Singapore, such as Constitution Gardens on the National Mall, Washington, D.C., and the Marina Bay Sands Integrated Resort in Singapore. So she received her Master of Landscape Architecture from the University of Pennsylvania School of Design in 2006, and her Bachelor of Science in Landscape Architecture from Cornell University in 2002. So welcome, Julie.
Thank you. Thank
So
you.
give us a bit of background. You have an amazing story. I mean, sounds like you worked on some pretty large and prestigious projects. It says you here were a partner of a previous firm. Tell us a bit about your journey so we can understand what it's led you to and where you are today.
Sure. So, my journey, I finished grad school. I got a great job opportunity out in California, moved to San Francisco, and started working for Peter Walker Partners, PWP Landscape Architecture. So I was there for almost 11 years, and went up through the ranks and was a partner there. And it was kind of a time in the firm that the firm was going to start to go through some succession. It hadn't really happened yet. And my husband and I are both from New York, and my husband got a really great job opportunity to move back to New York. So across the country, we moved back to New York. All of our family was back here, so it was kind of the right move for us. And at that point, I stayed working for Peter Walker Partners, and I was doing a lot of traveling. I was running a lot of projects. So I had some work that was on the East Coast. I worked with a bunch of architects on the East Coast. So professionally, it kind of made sense for me to stay with the firm and continue all my projects. And I traveled a lot. So then my husband and I had our first child. I was still with PWP at that time. And after our first child, I went back and was still working for PWP. And really, in terms of lifestyle that my husband and I wanted and we were looking at, I didn't really want to be doing all the traveling that I was doing. I love the project. I love my clients. And so it was a really hard decision for me to say, you know what, this is time for me to take a step back. And I've wanted to start my own firm. I've thought about it for a little while, and maybe now is the right time to start to do that. So that was in August of 2016. 2017. So August 2017, I started my own firm. We had a 8-month-old baby. And I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to jump in. I'm ready to go. Let's do it. So, I figured out how to form a company, and I did all that. And I had some projects. One that I had been working on previously that I kind of took with me, that was going through redesign at the time. And I had a couple really good architects that I was working with on the East Coast that remained contacts, and I had, an influx of work from them. Super, running along smoothly. And I got to the point where I was like, I don't know exactly what I'm supposed to be doing to build this business. How do I do it? I knew that I needed, business operations, but what that really meant, I was involved in it at my previous firm, but not to the nitty gritty of like, okay, exactly how do I set up doing, my billing, my accounting, all of these things, and what does it really take to build this out? And how do I know when to hire someone? I don't know when to, I know I have too much work at some points, but not enough at others. And so how do I kind of go through this process? And so that was really when I started to think, okay, maybe coming up with some better solution that isn't just me, Googling a lot of things, because you can find a lot on Google, but it's not really the best information all the time. And so I started thinking about that. And then I also, at the same time, got pregnant with our second child. And so for me, it ended up being a really good time where, because I was pregnant, I wasn't taking on new projects really. I was kind of going along with the projects that I had, and kind of knew that I had some that would sustain me through, that I would work a little bit after we had the baby, but wouldn't be in, crazy work mode by myself, because I'm a one person operation right now. And so it was really at that time, just after we had the baby, it was probably, I think our baby was like 8 weeks old when I started the program. And I was like, I have this great opportunity. My husband was still on paternity leave, which was great. And so I had this opportunity where I had a little bit of a lull in my work, which I had created intentionally. And I said, I can really spend this time now. I'd found the program to organize the firm, get all of that moving along, and really dive headfirst into that, and then go after more projects again. So that's where we are.
So Julie, and when we were talking earlier, well, first I want to go back to starting your firm. Can you tell me a bit about what fears, maybe insecurities or concerns did you have about really going at this alone?
I mean, I think a few of my big concerns were, how am I going to get the projects that I want to be working on? For me, that was a big thing, because I knew I didn't want to do residential. My background is in very large scale, complex projects, multidisciplinary teams, and multi-million-dollar projects. So, and I love that complexity, but I knew that scale of work to do by myself would be nearly impossible. So how do I get from a one-person operation that most people, they go out on their own and they start doing residential, for instance, because it's an easy, it's a scale that works. And so, but that really isn't interesting to me. That client type just isn't my interest. So, so for me, I think that was a big concern. And I think also finding a way to still collaborate with people, because in a large firm you have, you're bouncing ideas back and forth, you're sitting around a table, you're having a conversation. And so I think those interactions for me was a big concern about, how do I find either that network of people that I'm not, working with in my office, but are, contemporaries of mine to have those conversations with and still bounce ideas off. My husband is not in the design field, he's in the business field. So kind of having even those conversations at home is not a place where I'm going to get that same interaction. So I think those were kind of two of my biggest concerns. I kind of thought, I'll figure out the business part of it. That can't be too hard, right? And I knew that it would take time to figure out, but it was really more, how do I do the work I want to do and make it a profitable business in some way? And really the collaboration with people.
Awesome. And tell me where you're at with those 2 points in terms of resolving them or figuring out a solution to those.
Yeah. So I think in terms of the project size and the project type, I think the one thing that going through this program has really helped me kind of wrap my head around is that I can go after some of those bigger projects. It's given kind of the authority to say, I have a real business. I have an authority on the larger project types, commercial projects, multidisciplinary teams. And that is something that I can take on. It may not be Marina Bay Sands scale project, but there's somewhere in between roof terraces, which is what I was doing a lot of before, which is, a 5,000 to 10,000 square foot roof terrace. Is great. I enjoy doing them. Some of the clients are really great and fun to collaborate with. But really I'm looking for a little bit larger scale, and a little bit more complexity to it, I would say. So I've really realized that by organizing the business, I feel like I have this authority to go after those bigger clients, to reach out to architects that I've worked with previously, that are working on that mid-scale project is really what I'm after, I think. And so I think the program's been really good for me to kind of dig in and figure out exactly what project type I want to be working on. Because before that, it was kind of, okay, a roof terrace, super, I'll do a roof terrace. It wasn't super exciting to me, but it was, okay, it's a job, I can get some built work of my own, and then I can figure out where I'm going, as opposed to kind of taking the pause, which was super, and being able to focus on, what is it exactly that I want to be doing and how do I get there? it was kind of a different approach.
And the other thing you mentioned, of course, was the collaboration with other people,
Mm-hmm.
bouncing ideas off of people. Tell me about how you have made progress in that regard in your business.
Yeah, so I think I've become much more collaborative with the architects that I'm working with. And so I get some of that collaboration more on a project by project basis with the architects or the clients as opposed to within my own office. I still have, friends from my previous office and from, other design avenues that I reach out to and talk to, but that's less specific project based. And that's more kind of intellectual, conversation in general. Whereas the project specific collaboration, I'm really finding more with the architects that I'm working with and the developers and the client teams, which has been great. It's really helped me kind of change the focus of where I think collaboration can happen. I think in my previous office, there was more collaboration within the office, and there was collaboration with the architects definitely, but it was a different relationship than I've been building in my own firm.
And both Scott and I were just very impressed, Julie. You came into the program. You're one of our top implementers, meaning that you took the exercises that we teach in the program, you implemented them, you started to get results, and you showed up always ready on every single weekly coaching call. The other thing I noticed that was unique about you is that, you're a sole practice right now, but you do have a definite vision of wanting to grow and scale the company over time. So you don't always want to remain a one-woman shop. And so tell us a bit about that vision, about where you'd like to take your business as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, so I think that that growing in my size to probably 5 to 10 people is really, I think, where my sweet spot will be. I want to be involved in all of the projects that we're working on. I do want to be able to take on some of those much larger scale projects that have the complexity that are very interesting, because I think they have a huge impact on the people that they touch, and the entire kind of urban environment that they interact with. And so I think that those are very interesting from kind of a cultural and design perspective. And so being able to take on some more of those, I'm going to have to be a little bit bigger in size. And I also think that for me, that will kind of bring in more of that collaboration over time. I'm not looking to jump there, in the next year or so. I ideally would like to bring on, 1 or 2 more people in the next year. But while my kids are still teeny tiny, there's some days that I've realized that I just have to be a mom, and that's okay. And I think that coming to that realization kind of through this process, and that my firm doesn't need to go from 0 to 60 in a year or 2 years, but that my growth can be balanced with what, my life needs are, my life wants are. And I think that coming up with a firm that supports that both for women and men, whoever the makeup of the group is, I think is really important, because as I've kind of transitioned into being a mother and a wife and all of these things, I think that the importance of those things in the home life brings so much more to the work life also. And so I think trying to find a way to allow that within a firm is really important, and something that is not embedded in architecture or landscape firms, or at least many landscape, the traditional idea of what a landscape or architecture design firm is.
How have you been able to maintain a balance between your desired, kind of the things you'd like to do as a mother, and then also your professional development, the things you'd like to do in your business? Tell me about your philosophy around that, and how you've been able to, what you found to be effective in terms of balancing those two.
Yeah. I think that so far, I think that what I've done is I've built into my schedule that there's flexible times where there's only so many things that I can get done in a week. So I've kind of mapped out, there are these big key things that I've got to get done, and I do those. And then there's other things that are on it would be great to do, and I have kind of a timeline that they're going to get done by whatever date. But if it doesn't happen this week and I have to go pick up a sick kid or do dinner with the kids, that there's that I've built in some of those times that are flexible. And I know that there's going to be some things that come up that I have to do before the kids go to bed. But I also have built in that, you know, there's some nights that my husband has some work calls, and so I can get a little bit more work done then. But on nights when my husband and I are both home, we try and, you know, spend the time together so that we have a little bit of this balance, and, you know, we still see each other and still have a relationship. And, you know, I think it's a hard balance, and I think I figured out that, especially working from home, it's even more difficult, because now that my older daughter is 2 and she knows that mommy is home, there's the knocking on the door, or the, you know, you can hear and you want to go and help. So I think that over time, I'm going to end up having to probably either go do a co-work space, something like that, in order to get a little bit more time. But I definitely block out my time where, you know, from 9:30 in the morning until, you know, 3 or so, that's kind of my core work time. And then after 3, I usually can get a little bit more done. Sometimes it's in the evening, sometimes it's regular working hours, but I try not to be too hard on myself. At first I was like, no, but I have to get all of this stuff done. And I've kind of realized that there's some days that you just have to be a mom, and that's okay.
Tell me about your approach with business development, Julie. What have you found to be most effective? And what do you do to develop new business for your young firm?
So a lot of my new business right now has been very organic from other architects that I've worked with previously. And I've been getting some projects from them. Although I would say that they're not the projects that I necessarily want to be doing, because I'm smaller. It is a lot of roof terraces, a lot of smaller spaces. Some things that are concept design only, and then get handed off to, you know, a local that is doing the base building, for instance. So, which is not really, I want to be doing everything from the design through the construction documents and the CA. So, so I would say that right now I'm in that transition where I'm really starting to go after and be specific about the projects that I want to be doing and the type of clients that I want. And so my strategy now is I've gone through and kind of made a top list of architects, developers, clients that I want to reach out to present my firm to. Some of them are people that I know, some of them are people that I don't know. And it's really focused on project type that they go after, and how I think that we would collaborate together, given our similar interests in projects and working type. And so I am looking to have more of a social media presence, but that's really more to build the brand of the firm than it is for business development, I would say. Whereas I think more of my business development will end up coming from specific interactions with architects, developers that I'm interested in working with. So That's my first approach. We'll see how it works.
What would you say has been the most valuable thing from the Freedom Formula program, Julie, that has allowed you to set the stage for the future?
I think having the business organized as kind of a base, you know, the program goes through, you know, how do you organize your accounts? How do you know, organize the business operations? And I think having that as kind of the platform to jump off of has given me the authority to go after the projects that I'm interested in, and to interact with the client type that I'm interested in and the architects that I'm interested in. Whereas before I felt like, you know, I was playing dress up in a firm where I was a one-person show and the business wasn't really organized. And so it's really a mental shift that's happened through the process, which is something that I wasn't expecting. You know, I was expecting to get the business more organized. I was expecting to understand how the business would operate better, when I would be able to bring more people on. But the mental shift in having that organization done has been dramatic, and I was not expecting.
Awesome. What do you feel, what's next for your business over the next 12 months or so?
So the next 12 months, I think, is really focused on client acquisition and project acquisition, and building beyond the architects that I'm working with now, who are fantastic and I love and I'll continue to work with. But I think diversifying that pool of people that I'm working with, and I think ideally finding a handful of architects and developers that I feel like could be repeat collaborations as well. So I think that's really the next step for me. And also, I've started to identify some of the things within my business that I don't need to be spending as much time on, and trying to find whether it's, whether it's temporary help or, part-time help for some of those things and specific roles. I think that'll be in the next 12 months also.
Awesome. Looking back, what would you say would be the biggest tips you might give to yourself or someone in your position when they're going out on their own for the first time? What are the biggest kind of lessons learned that you can share with us?
I think the biggest lesson learned for me is that really starting out with a clear plan about what you want your firm to be, who you are, and that can change over time. I think it's okay that it changes over time. And I think every week I kind of have a little meeting with myself and then saying, is this still the right path? Am I still focused on this client type? That's still, making sure that it's the right plan. But I think really developing that 5-year plan about who you want to be, where you want to be, was really important. And I think that what helped clarify all of those things for me was really that vision, mission, and values. And each one independently was helpful. But once they kind of all came together, it was really a light bulb moment for me. And so I think really getting at the heart of what you want your firm to be. And I don't know that I would have known that and would be at the same place when I did it right off the bat. But, coming out of a bigger firm and having been there for a very long time, I think you first come out and you're like bewildered. You're a little like, okay, I know I want to do something different, but I don't know what that is exactly. And so I had to, I think, go through the process of doing some projects that were not the projects that I wanted to do, to know that they weren't the projects that I wanted to do. And so I think being open to a little bit of that, a time period where you have an idea and kind of testing those theories along the way, I think has been helpful for me. And I think that would be the advice that I would give.
So, Julie, you've been a great student in the program, a great client to work with. We've been very impressed with everything that you've accomplished. We look forward to keeping up with your future success. It's interesting, as I see people go through the program, there's certain telltale signs that I can see that tell me that someone is going to really continue to evolve over their career. And I think that for you, I had a very strong sense of vision. And you talked about that as being something that you've developed. So from one Cornell alum to another, go Big Red. Congratulations, and thank you for sharing your story with us, Julie, inspiring other designers and architects in the world.
Thank you. It's been a lot of fun. It has been a lot of fun going through the process. And I think my other advice would be to people to really dig in and embrace the process. I think as architects and designers, we say, I know how to do this, or I can figure it out, as creative people. But I think really embracing the process and embracing, diving into things we don't know is really important.
Awesome. So if you're listening to this interview and you're inspired, if you'd like to take your business to the next level, if you'd like to build a base upon which you can achieve something greater, have more impact in the future, I have put together a 60-minute free training. You can learn about some of the strategies that Julie's implemented by going to businessofarchitecture.com/freedom webinar. That's an on-demand training, and you'll learn about a few of the keys that we teach in the program. So in any case, thanks again, Julie, and we'll speak soon.
Perfect. Thank you.